Good evening and welcome to Writers Unplugged. This is a series to hear your favorite writers or new to you writers in conversation as if you were eavesdropping on us in a coffee shop. My name is Jen Jumba. I'm a librarian at the main branch of Cleveland Public Library, and one of my favorite things besides reading is talking to writers. It's an opportunity to get to know their craft, what inspires their stories, where they like to write, essentially getting to know them better and seeing them as human beings and not just the name on the spine of a book. We are so lucky this evening to have Mary McKinnon joining us to talk about her brand new book, Only One Survives. And it has one of the best taglines ever. Sharing the spotlight can be murder. I know, the wah, wah, wah. Before we get started, I want to mention a few housekeeping notes. To find out who else is visiting Writers Unplugged virtually and in person, visit cpl.org/upcoming. Max Backs Books on Coventry, which is our favorite indie bookstore, will have copies of Hannah's books waiting for you. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. I will be sure to ask her. But first, a brief introduction to Mary McKinnon. She began her career working in the corporate world as a purchasing manager for a high-tech company and then rose through the ranks to become CEO of an IT recruitment firm. It was upon moving to Canada with her husband and trying to stay in the corporate world she knew she needed to She knew she wanted to follow her passion of writing. And as readers, I think we can all say we are grateful Hannah began writing, and as she says, never wants to look back. Hannah is the writer of 7 thrillers and will be here to talk about her latest, Only One Survives. And this book is just over a week old, so congrats. And if thrillers aren't your thing, rest assured, Hannah has a different side and also writes holiday rom-coms under the name Holly Cassidy. Aw. She's also the creator and co-host of First Chapter Fun, which she started during the pandemic and has become such a lifeline for all of us. It continues all these years later. It airs on Tuesdays at 12:30 p.m. on Instagram and Facebook and is guaranteed to topple any TBR pile. And don't tell anyone, but I just had to buy more bookshelves. I've been lucky enough to have met Hannah several years ago, just before her first thriller, The Neighbors, was released. And it is always special to see someone as kind and intelligent as Hannah shine as a writer. So a warm welcome to Mary McKinnon.
Hello.
Hello.
What a lovely introduction. Thank you very much, Jen.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So you're here talking about Only One Survives. This book is a little over a week old, 10 days old. Will you give everybody a quick overview of the story?
Yes, of course. My practiced elevator pitch
absolutely.
goes as follows. So Only One Survives is about the rise and very violent demise of the all-female pop rock group called the Bittersweet, when after a fatal car crash, one of the surviving members decides the band is now worth more dead than alive.
Yes, this is where normally say, and then bad things happen.
Yes.
That's a thriller writer, right? So I'm struck by your books, and this is not the first one I've read. Every single one of your books has these amazing characters that you do such a wonderful job of capturing their complexity as human beings. It's, they're never flat. They're not all good. They're not all bad. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach character development?
Sure. So it's really important to me that I get to know my characters before I start writing the book. And I do that in a number of ways. I outline very heavily. So I'm not a pantser, somebody who flies by the seat of their pants and doesn't outline, or outlines as they or discovers the story as they write. I discover it beforehand. And when I mean discover the story, I mean I think about it a lot. I do a long outline that it also includes what the characters have gone through and who they are and how they have become the people that they are when we meet them in, say, chapter 1, in particular the protagonist and the antagonist. So that involves interviewing my characters. So that basically it's a 3-page questionnaire, with things like a description, physical description, of course, but also things like what the relationship with their parents were, who their parents are, if they're dead or alive, or what jobs they had, if they got along with them or not, siblings, when they were their richest, their poorest, what kind of a car they drive, if at all. One of my favorite questions in that list is why I'm interested in the character, and why the reader should be, where they are at the beginning, where they are at the end, physically, geographically speaking, but also emotionally speaking. So I do spend a lot of time really thinking about them, and that's just before I start writing, because then, of course, as I write the character more and more, as I write the book, more and more stuff comes up, and they get further and further developed, really. So to the point where if they walked into the house, other than knowing that they're fictional, I wouldn't really be surprised, and I could sit down and have a cup of tea with them and ask them how they're doing, that kind of thing. So they do actually become very, very, very real. So I spend a lot of time thinking about who they are and what they've done. And like you said, they're not all good, and they're not all bad. They're always a mix, because that's what humans are.
Absolutely. Although I would say that you're all good. That that being said, can you talk a little bit about the two main characters in this book? Right, you have Vienna and you have Madison. Can you share a little bit about how you came to develop these two?
Yeah, so Madison and Vienna meet in grade 12, first day of grade 12, at the cafeteria in an altercation. There's no spoilers there.
Right.
And they're very different, and yet they're not. So they're different in terms of upbringing, because Vienna comes from a very poor background. She doesn't know her dad. She's never met her dad. Her mum isn't really sure who he is. She doesn't have a good relationship with her mum, who seems to be, more preoccupied with going out partying than anything else. She does not like the man who becomes her stepfather during the book. She has a great relationship with her grandmother, who has dementia. So that's really, really hard for Vienna, because she's only, she's 17 or 18 at the beginning of the book. And she's not loved in her family. Whereas Madison comes from a very privileged upbringing, tons of money, vacations, and extracurricular activities, and basically whatever she wants, she can have financially. But her parents are exceedingly pushy. And the one thing that she craves, which would be their love, they don't really demonstrate or give to her. So there's that they have in common. Plus, they share a love of music. So when they meet in this altercation, they quickly find out that they love music while they're in detention, and very similar kinds of music. Vienna, influenced by her grandmother, and Madison by a former nanny. And that's how they bond, and they become the most important person in each other's lives, and form a duo first called MV. So M for Madison, V for Vienna. MV sounds like envy, which is a thread that runs through the book. And then they go on and form the Bittersweet. So that's a very brief synopsis of who.
Yeah,
I was struck.
Yeah, I was struck by the fact that they do have such opposite upbringings, but yet they find something they have in common that seems almost superficial at first, with music. And then they realize they both enjoy performing music, and the dichotomy that exists between Madison, who's very much controlled by her parents. You do this, you play this, you will play a violin, and then there's, because she doesn't have much of a influence by her parents, you have Vienna, who just kind of goes for the gusto and does what she wants and tries. And they really, really complement each other in that duo. And then, throughout the book. So well done. It was so fun to read.
Thank you.
And so this is not a spoiler, but very early on in the book, the Bittersweet, the band, is in a car accident, in a snowstorm in the Catskills. And then, they're trying to figure out what is what, right? And survival skills come into effect.
That's right.
and makes me kind of glad I was a Girl Scout because there's this scene with Libby where she decides that she knows how to make a stretcher. Somebody else knows how to take a belt and make a tourniquet.
Yeah.
So, so it's not all dire. And then they start walking and they end up finding this cabin that's abandoned. And it kind of goes from there.
Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Yes, I was researching. I was a Girl Scout too, well, a Girl Guide actually in England, but I'd never made a jacket stretcher before, so that was something new where you invert the sleeves of a jacket and pop tree branches up the sleeves. If you do that with 2 jackets, it gives you something somebody can actually lie on that will hold them. So that was quite interesting.
I just of all the fun like little nuggets that you weave through that are practical, that make the story so real, that it's not just all these things that line up in a book perfectly ordered, but you just never know quite what's going to happen with them.
Yes. Yes, that's the intention. You don't know who's going to make it, and as the title would suggest, there will be a few who won't make it because only one survives. That's right.
Yeah, only one survives. I'm joined in conversation with the fabulous Hannah Mary McKinnon. So speaking about your process, you mentioned that you are very much a plotter, a very detailed outline. Do you know the ending of your book because you've outlined it so well?
Yes.
I guess the reason I ask that is because when I read your books, I am constantly wanting to turn the next page. That pacing that you're able to do, and I would get it from as we call them, pantsers perspective, because they don't quite know. So the reader doesn't quite know, but I always marvel and I'm amazed at your really detailed outline, but yet the reader is constantly turning the pages, not sure what's going to happen. How do you do that? Or is it just
I guess the difference is that I might know when I have an idea. Typically, I have an idea, have a beginning, which is then followed by an ending. I need to have those 2 points to anchor the story, and then from there I'll break it down into larger stepping stones, if you like, and then break it down even further. So while I know the ending, or I think I know the ending, because sometimes it changes, sometimes it shifts a little bit. Not in the last few books. The last few books have been pretty consistent with the ending I had in mind. But as I'm outlining, which is basically writing a short version of the book, really, if you think about it, that's what an outline is. I don't know how they're going to get there. So I guess that's probably why, I think of Hank, with whom I host First Chapter Fun. She and I are complete opposites. She does not outline. She likes discovering the story as she's writing it. I don't do that. I find that very difficult, very time consuming, and I much prefer having a map. So, but the other thing is that when I do an outline, the last outline I wrote, which is for the book next year, took me about a month.
Wow.
Roughly a month. And that's for the character interviews and the initial post-it outline, and then developing the post-it bullet points, and then developing each bullet point to figure out how long.
Right.
So, if we look at how long it takes to write a book, I would have to add that to how long it takes me to write a book, right? It might take me 4 months to write the manuscript and edit the manuscript and get it to a place where I can call it a first draft for my editor.
Okay.
But you have to add on about another month of outlining.
Makes sense.
I guess that's why I hope I'm able to surprise most readers, because some people always say they saw everything coming, and that surprises me, because I'd like them to come and outline for me, please, because I sure as heck don't. So it's just a different approach, and there isn't a wrong or right way of writing books, and everybody has a slightly different methodology. Some people write an outline that's a couple of pages. Some write one that's 30 pages. I've heard of one gentleman who writes 100-page outline, which is basically about a third of a book, depending if it's double spaced or single spaced, of course.
Right.
So it needs to be whatever feels right for the person who's writing the book, and outlining just happens to work well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to say, whatever you're doing, stick with it, because every single book
Well,
has
thank
been
you.
has been incredible. And it has, things that I don't quite see coming, or things that find me. And I think your book did this. So I'm joined in conversation with the fabulous Mary McKinnon. Only One Survives is liking a character, not liking a character, and then liking a character again. I've come into books where like I don't like the character, and then okay, I understand why they did what they did, and so okay. And then I've come into books where I'm like, oh, what a great character, and then I was like, oh no, you, and can't say on a live recording. So this, I found myself conflicted, liking the character, not liking the character, and liking the character again. So if that was what you were going for, to kind of keep the reader off balance, well done.
Yeah, that was intentional, and it's been intentional with a couple of my books, a couple of my thrillers now. Never Coming Home with Lucas, who hires the hitman to kill his wife. Lucas,
yeah, I wish you would walk in my house,
which is funny because he's a murderer. But okay,
but that's so hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have Frankie in The Revenge List as well.
Yes.
She has anger issues. I love Frankie. Some
she was a great character.
Because she had anger issues, and don't even get me started. I won't get on my soapbox about that, about women not allowed to be angry. We won't go down that road. But I think it's just more interesting and more enjoyable for me to write. I'm more interested in writing characters who are flawed, who do good stuff and bad stuff, who I might like in one chapter and then not in the next, and who have a distinct arc. Because if somebody's likable and always likable and never does anything bad, well, is that real? And it's all subjective anyway,
Right.
It really is all subjective. So, and let's also not forget, I have to say that I have excellent editors, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not, yes, I write the outline, and typically go through it with my agent and my editors, and then we work on, I write the manuscript, and then there's the whole editing process with my editor, line edits, in-depth edits, right, structural edits. Those are the big things. And then we have copy editors, proofreaders, line editing. So this is very much a collaboration in the end, really.
Absolutely. It's an amazing process that, I don't think sometimes as readers we understand when we sit down and, we decide we're having cereal for dinner. Who cares if the laundry's not done? I have nowhere else to be because I'm going to binge read, only once a day, right? So I'm always kind of struck by that it's such this process. And recently, in front of the library where I work downtown, they had been filming the new Superman movie. So for 6 weeks. So that collaborative process, but seeing all things that I'm going to see for seconds, on the big screen, but what it took for them to kind of create the scene and change the storefronts, and to change. So I can now say I had a temporary assignment at the Metropolis Library because they changed the signage out front.
Cool.
So yeah, it's kind of fun, but it makes you appreciate the art form even more when you know how much goes into it.
Definitely. And we haven't even touched on, aside from the editing process, there's also all of the public, all the PR, all of the marketing, the cover design, the audio department, because they make audio.
Oh, the audio was brilliant. That's why I was okay that it took me a little bit longer to get back.
Well, thank you. Narrator is Amy Hall, and she's fantastic. So there are so many. And then there's the sales team, for goodness sake, don't let me forget the sales team, and the library, the library outreach, all of these different departments that work for HarperCollins. In this instance, Mira is the imprint that published me. It's part of HarperCollins. It is a huge undertaking. So one could almost say that the writing is the easy part.
I think the writing is the crux, and that is like the core, because without the book story that you've written, who would want to get behind it? But you write such fabulous stories that I would stand and sell like in the middle of the street if I could. Instead it's just the middle of the stacks at the library. Like, no, you have to read this, and here's why. So a little bit earlier we talked about the duo, as they started in high school. We talked about Vienna and we talked about Madison, and that thread of envy that runs throughout this book, and the thread of how well do we really know people. And then, you know, you ask this pivotal question that kind of comes up throughout the book about fame and the impact that fame has on people. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose to show that perspective?
Sure. I mean, these women in the band, when they form the Bittersweet, they're all the early 20s. You know, I think the oldest is 23 or something. And there's this huge pressure also that they put on themselves because they want different things. So, you know, a duo, there's already going to be issues. But with 5 members in a band wanting different things, or, you know, choosing different paths, there could be even more conflict, which is part of why I wanted to write the story.
Exactly.
So the fame part, really, you know, some of them want the fame, some of them want to be famous and huge and, you know, play in sold out stadiums in front of 50,000 people. Others just want to make music, and if they can make a living out of it, then that's really what they want to do, be able to make a living, but be able to play and make music for forever. And so what I wanted to do, and I did this using different media. So we have radio interview transcripts, we have newspaper articles, blog posts, and also some social media comments. And the social media comments, as most of us who are active on social media know, are not always kind. And I wanted to demonstrate how even some throwaway comments that somebody thinks, yeah, it's insulting, but who's going to see it? It doesn't matter, can actually matter and do matter. So I just wanted to show how people, this strange phenomenon on social media, where people who don't know each other at all, they've never met in real life, don't even know what their real names are, probably, if they're just handles, get into these massive arguments.
Absolutely.
No, so that's part of the book.
Yeah, I'm joined in conversation with Hannah Mary McKinnon, fabulous writer of Only One Survives. That was the thing that I was thinking about, like, as this band, you know, was forming and coming up, is that I think we've seen bands being accustomed to radio interviews, television interviews, a newspaper, but you added that extra tension of social media. And to your point, complete strangers saying things that they probably would not have the guts to say to somebody's face.
And shouldn't.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know, my grandma used to always say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Kind of thing. But the impact words have, it used to be like, sticks and stones will break my bones, and, you know,
words will never hurt me, but that's a pile of crop, because they do.
Absolutely. I think they have far more of an impact, both the good words that are said to people that they kind of hold on to, and then the not so stuff that allows people to just really kind of spiral.
Yes. And I think sometimes with social media, comments are made and you know, people don't necessarily think or realize what the impact can be. And I was talking with an actor, and I said, I don't know how you do what you do, because he said, well, you know, you write books, you get bad reviews and good reviews and everything in between. Yes, I do, but it's about my books. I don't really take them personally, unless they're personal. There have been a few which has been kind of interesting. But when you're an actor and you're on screen, be it large or small or whatever, it's not just your performance. People are critiquing and criticizing what you look like, you know, your weight, whether you've put on weight or lost weight, or and everything in between. And that I find so strange, really, that we're in that society where that is considered normal, and where, in fact, if you put yourself out there, that you're fair game. And I struggle with that. I really do. I don't think that because you create something, that you make art, whatever that art is, that gives everybody free license to just, you know, tear you down. Or it's lovely. And on the one hand, you know, why how could I be okay with people saying, yes, you're great, you're fantastic, you're brilliant, and not okay with people saying, no, you suck? I guess it's because the "you suck" part can really hurt. And is it helpful? I'm not
Is
really
it
sure.
true? Is it kind? Is it
Yeah,
helpful? Or kind of
exactly. So, you know, for me, bad reviews and whatnot are part of the course. It just comes with the territory, because not everybody is going to like what I write. I don't like everything I read. I don't like every TV show I watch. But I think when it comes to, you know, physical traits and characteristics and stuff, I think that must be really tough. And I'm very glad I'm not subjected to that. I'm not an actor, nor will I ever be.
No, I'm struck by that it's particularly in the entertainment industry, right? You don't see anybody walking up to an attorney and going, dude, you're only 6'2", you know, what's up with that? Or like, oh, you chose to wear a pantsuit to the courtroom. Like, it doesn't happen with any other industry.
No.
And sometimes I feel like we work so hard to build people up just so we can tear them right back down.
Everyone likes an underdog.
Yeah.
And then some don't like it when the underdog becomes the superdog.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Even though they help put them there. So yeah, it's a very strange phenomenon. And I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, so I wouldn't be able to analyze it properly, but it will be interesting to get, you know, proper insights and analysis on why that is.
Absolutely. And then, like, again, proper analysis on how do you deal with it when it's said and it hurts and it stings a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm joined in conversation with the fabulous Hannah Mary McKinnon. Latest book, which is just over a week old, is Only One Survives. So talking about this book, you have structured two different timelines. You know, current, like present day, and then days after the accident, and then you kind of flash back. How do you go about writing that? Because it alternates.
So when I wrote the outline, I didn't have the present day chapters at the cabin interspersed between the rest of the story of how Madison and Vienna met. I actually had the outline starting with a blog post, so current day, present day, but then go back to when Madison and Vienna met in high school and move forward from there until the end of part 1. And it was my editor, said they were genius, who suggested, when she saw the outline, she said it would be really interesting to explore having the scenes at the cabin woven through the chapters of the story in part 1 of how Madison and Vienna met, how they form envy, how they become the bittersweet, up to the day of the accident. And I really liked the idea, but what I decided to do was write everything from the high school altercation moment up until the cabin, and well, up until the day after the accident, really, in one fell swoop, and then take the chapters, the long chapter, which turned out to be a very long chapter because I just wrote it all in one go, of what happened at the cabin, and cut it up into small chapters and place them in between, where I thought it took a little bit of arranging. It wasn't too bad. Every couple of chapters in the story of Madison meeting Vienna, you'll see a story of what happens at the cabin after the accident and the day after the accident. So that was how I did it. So I didn't write Madison and Vienna meet in the cafeteria, and they become best friends. Oh, and then something happens at the cabin, and then go back. No.
Oh yeah,
I just wrote it all linear and chopped it up.
That's impressive.
Not really. You know what's more impressive? And I know you've spoken to Mary Kubika.
Yeah,
she writes multi-point of view books. She also writes non-linear timelines.
Yes.
And generally what she does is she writes one point of view character, then the next one, then the next one, and she interweaves them. And what's even more impressive is that she doesn't outline. So that's impressive.
Wow, I think my head just
oh yeah, when she told me, my head exploded too. I was
I think she was the one you introduced me to, and I gasped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's the one.
Yeah, this is fun. I tried to be cool, but I just kind of had a
It's
moment.
Mary Kubiko. Who could be cool around Mary
And,
Kubiko?
and on
Come on.
top of that, she runs marathons.
She does
So
multiple marathons. Yep. Yep.
multiple marathons and
Yep. She's
fosters like the
impressive.
most adorable little kittens. So
Yep.
yeah, fun stuff. You guys are great people. I think that's what I was struck by with the thriller community, how great of friends you all are, how kind you all are, versus some other genres.
It's a great community, honestly. It really is. It's fabulous, and I think in particular, female crime writers. There's a very not to say that there isn't with men either, but there's certainly a large group of female crime authors, and we're pretty close knit, which is really fun. Yeah,
That's
we have
awesome.
each other's backs, which is just lovely.
Without a doubt. So I'm joined in conversation with Hannah Mary McKinnon, writer of Only One Survives. So this is a book about a band. How do you do research on a band to make sure that you talk about the equipment, the like the pieces of music that they're playing? Because you wrote lyrics on your website are lyrics. Yeah. So okay, impressive. I know you're talking about splicing it up, but you also wrote lyrics for songs for this group Bittersweet. So I'm just wondering if they're ever going to be released. Should I get tickets?
I hope so. I mean, if the universe ever decided that something, whether for large or small screen will become of Only One Survives, then hopefully we'd be able to put melodies to my song lyrics, but I'd need a composer for that. But how did I go about researching a band? Well, one of my best friends from high school age is a band manager. He's managed multiple artists, and his name is Roger, and the band's manager in the book is named Roger. And we spent a good 3-4 hours on Zoom going through how band management works, how the relationship with the record label works, what the different names are, the producer, the A&R, the artist and repertoire manager and whatnot. Because it's not a world I was familiar with at all. So he helped me with that. And I sent him an early copy of the book to make sure I hadn't messed it up. And in terms of the instruments and whatnot, I mean, I researched, what do you call the different parts of drums? Because Vienna's a drummer, so I needed to know. I watched movies about bands.
Did you watch Whiplash with
I did not. Oh wait, Whiplash. Yes, I did.
I didn't realize how torn up their hands get.
Yes, I did. Yeah, one of my lads said you need to watch Whiplash. It was excellent. Yeah, I did. And I researched female drummers a lot because Vienna's a woman, so I wanted to look at the different drummers. Karen Carpenter was one of them. Sheila E., Meg White, and so forth. So it was really interesting to do. It was I love when I write stuff about things I know nothing about, because it gives me an opportunity to go and do some research and learning about the band. I mean, the band became so real, I would love for there to be music to all of those songs. There are 6 of them. And you're right, all of the lyrics on the website. We have this bonus material with a playlist as well, with a link to Spotify and song lyrics.
I also listened to on the way home. I was going back
good.
In the audiobook in the playlist.
Excellent. Yeah, it was tons of fun to do. Tons of fun.
Well, it comes across. How different was it writing lyrics versus writing a book?
Oh, gosh, it's night and day. I mean, it's completely different, because I needed to at first really decide. So the songs are written in Vienna's frame of mind to enhance, really the idea was to enhance the reader's experience, to show what she's thinking through her lyrics. So that was interesting to do, to kind of put myself into her frame of mind for lyrics. I was already in her frame of mind, of course, for the book, as she narrates the vast majority of it. But I also had to understand how songs are built, because I'm not musically inclined at all, and I've never written songs or lyrics before. So I needed to understand, okay, I know there's a verse and a chorus, but what else is there? How does that work?
That's all I know.
Yeah, right. And there's the bridge, there's the intro, there's the outro. So how does that work? And I also asked Roger, my friend, the band manager,
Yeah.
fictional band manager, but the real one in real life,
Yeah.
I said I wanted to write lyrics. He said, you should. And I said, but I don't have a melody. I can't do it. And he said, don't worry about it. Right now, you're just writing lyrics. And if there was anything ever came from it, you'd work with a composer or somebody else. And the lyrics will probably change. So
worked out well for Elton John, right?
Sure
He
did.
wrote the lyrics, and Bernie
Sure
wrote the melodies. So
I think sometimes from what I understand, some people who write music do both. Some write the lyrics, some write the melody. Sometimes the melody is given to somebody to write lyrics. Sometimes it's a little bit, I guess, like novel writing. It all depends on what works for the individual or individuals concerned.
Yeah, I want to thank you and all the singer songwriters out there who take the risk to share that talent and put themselves out there, tell these incredible stories. We have lyrics that will run through our head forever, no matter where you are. And that's the other thing too, is about, so I'm joined in conversation with Mary McKinnon. Only One Survives, just released last week. So how connected we are to music. I can hear a song from high school and remember exactly where I was, who I was with, what we were doing, and how it resonates in that part of our brain relative to other things. People will be like, oh yeah, don't you remember this? No. Play a song and I was like, I know exactly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think for me, nothing can lift my mood quicker than a few bars, the opening bars of a song. There's just something magical about it. And I wish I was musically inclined, because I'm not at all. And it would be so fun to be able to sing or play an instrument properly or whatever. So I think there's just something magical when you hear a song, and like you say, to your point, it evokes memories, or you make new ones, or
exactly.
It's just, or you're in a grumpy mood and your favorite song comes on the radio and you're good to go. It really is admirable what musicians and singer songwriters, bands do. It really is incredible.
Yeah. I would say that you all as writers do something very similar.
Might take a bit longer though.
Takes a little bit longer than the opening bars or the opening chapter. Unless it's first chapter fun, then we'll say.
Sure. Yeah, but I think maybe reading a page will lift you out of your funky mood. But I would venture that hearing your song will be faster.
It will, but
I think it'll do it quicker. Yeah, I think they have the edge there, I would say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, perhaps, but still works just as well. So the other thing that you do a really beautiful job in weaving the story in Only One Survives is really, from Vienna's perspective, her picking up on body language, like, and the nonverbal communication and the, like, I guess, micro expressions, like things will flit across somebody's face very quickly. And Vienna can pick up like, ooh, that's right, that's not right, what's she thinking, kind of thing. So I thought that was fun too, because that just kind of adds to the layers of this story.
That might be because I worked in HR for a long time, so I'm generally pretty good at reading people. Maybe I moved a little bit of that onto Vienna. I've never really thought of that, but maybe I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it says a lot about us, the things that we do, some of it, dramatic, but then at the same time, sometimes things are incongruent, that somebody might be like this.
Oh, yes.
Strictly because they're cold, not because they're like, get away from me. Right. So like Absolutely. It becomes this gamesmanship almost of like being able to confirm what you're seeing with what somebody's feeling without talking. So
yes, exactly.
So I'm joined in conversation by the fabulous Mary McKinnon, Only One Survives. Talk a little bit about how words matter, right? And how the impact that it had on Vienna. Vienna was told very early on in life, you're not worth anything, you're never going to be anything now, not ever. How that kind of impacted how she chooses to approach life.
I think one of the saddest, I remember writing one of the saddest sentences for Vienna, which was that my mum once told me she wished she'd had an abortion.
Yeah.
And in my darkest moments, I wished she had too. And and I thought that was so sad, that she felt so unloved, that she wished herself away, that she wished her mother had never had her. And that was just desperately sad. And I really like Vienna. I really felt for her, as I generally do with the characters I write.
Yeah.
And she's very damaged, and she's very broken, but she's also very gutsy.
Mm-hmm.
And she has some temper issues, which is completely understandable, with her icky stepfather and with her lackluster mother. But she's also very loving towards her grandmother. So I liked the fact that she had music in her life that was so important, and that really drove most of her decisions until she met Madison. And then with the two of them, who are equally really broken but in different ways, and they latch on to one another, and they have this friendship that is in some ways toxic and in other ways beautiful. And that was the interesting part too to write, because their friendship isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, for multiple reasons, which I won't divulge because I'll spoil things. But they love each other deeply as friends. They really do. They care for one another. And one of the other sentences that I remember writing is that one of them says, some people think we have a toxic friendship, and when one of us was doing well, the other one would grab onto the coattails and hang on for dear life, either pulling them backwards or letting ourselves be dragged forward. And it wasn't that we didn't want the other one to be successful. It was that we didn't want to be left behind, because Madison and Vienna, that they're all they have, right? Yeah. Other than these crappy relationships with their parents. So that friendship was really, really interesting to explore, because also when you're in your early 20s, things are amplified, and it's just much more complicated than when you're, older and you have more maturity and perspective.
Absolutely. I guess that's the thing that I really looked at, is that friendship of, it's not perfect. And I know life is not perfect, and we as human beings are not perfect. But how they would kind of hurt one another, but at the same time, how overriding and immense the love was for one another.
Yeah.
How they knew, like, this is my person. Like, no matter what, like, I can throw a fit and say some stuff that I'll clean up later. But at the same time, they still had each other. And I don't think either one of them had that in their upbringing.
That's right.
Anybody. I would argue maybe Vienna with her sweet Grams.
Yes.
Which added this, because she was full of some angst, right? I mean, and who wouldn't be filled with it, with that kind of a mom and soon to be stepfather. But you see how kind her heart is with the relationship she has with her grandmother, even the relationship she has with the kitten.
Yes.
Twice, Pepper.
Yes.
So there's just this poignancy, which it just was a wonderful addition to her character. So when you were doing your 3-page interview with her,
I knew she loved cats right from. I remember deciding as I was doing that interview, she loves cats, and that's because not everything I do in this interview feeds into the book. That would be impossible. I mean, there's things like do they believe in ghosts? I don't write ghost stories, but it just informs me about the character. But I remember distinctly deciding early on that Vienna loves cats.
Absolutely, because I think it just adds to why they do what they do, which is what you are aiming to understand when you do those interviews. So would all that content end up there? No, but you would know whether or not she would, rescue a kitten or kick a dog, right? Because that leads to whether or not how she would act someplace else with.
Exactly. Claire McIntosh interviews her characters as well. And one of her questions, which I really must put on mine, is what's in their fridge? Which I thought was a really cool, because it tells you a lot. Is it a bottle of champagne and a stick of butter and nothing else? Or is it fully stocked with fresh veg and fruit and all kinds of treats? Or is it you know, a stale bit of cheese and 3
A bunch
crackers?
of
Or
condiments. Yeah, right. No,
I really must add that question. It's a fun one.
I like that. I was going to
Mm.
say, I normally do a final 5 at the end. And so like, that's a good question. It's Claire McIntosh. So
It's
that's,
Claire McIntosh. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So you can't go wrong.
Yeah, no, can't go wrong. So, so let's see, what else am I missing? I'm joined in conversation by the fabulous Hannah Mary McKinnon. Only One Survives. I'm just struck by what you want people to take away after reading. Is there anything other than our own experience that like fame isn't all it's cracked up to be, or how important friendship is?
You know what? I don't try and teach people stuff in my books. That's not, I never set out. That's never my aim. I just hope people have a really good time reading the book. I hope they enjoy it. I hope they're entertained. I hope they go and have a look at the bonus material and maybe listen to the playlist and think, oh yeah, I remember that. Or, oh, I haven't heard about these groups of, you know, artists before. So I hope they discover new artists. That would be cool with this book. But I always say, when people say, what's the goal of this book? It really is to entertain. That's what I just set out to do, is to write a story. People get to the end and they go, oh, that was fun. What else has she written? What else is coming up? Or what's next? And whatnot. So if anything, you know, if there had to be something I could take away, we touched on it earlier about social media, you know, about posting stuff and whatnot, then maybe, you know, maybe if people could think once or twice before they post something that's maybe more reactive than anything else, that could be good. You know, kindness goes a long way.
Be safe, stay kind, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, I mean, I'm not trying to impart wisdom or lessons, or I just want to entertain readers. That really is my goal.
And you do both. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think when a writer such as yourself, who's incredibly talented with character, I mean, story in general, but in particular characters, to see things from their perspective, it makes us pause as readers. It should, like, about, before I post on social media, should I say this? Or, you know, what's the relationship like with my parents? Or who's my, you know, person? Or what's the thing that I care more about? So like, Vienna had a really tough upbringing. She could have gone down a completely different path.
Yes.
Of perhaps self-destruction. She chose music, and hoping all of us find that passion so that our decisions are different. I'm not going to say they're better, but you know, that was what she cared more about than anything, is being able to play music and to perform.
Yeah, that's right.
So for you, I would say that's, besides your amazing family, it'd be writing. So,
well, thank you.
Quite welcome. Before we go to the final 5, can you tell everybody who's watching and will be listening about First Chapter Fun?
Yes. Okay. So First Chapter Fun is every Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Instagram and Facebook at First Chapter Fun. And it's a place where my partner in fictional crime, Hank Philippi Ryan, and I read the first chapter of a different book, not ours unless it's pub week. So last week we read from Only One Survives. In October we'll read from The Christmas Countdown, my Holly Cassidy rom-com. But otherwise we read from other people's books, the first chapter. And the authors generally join us in the comments on Facebook and or Instagram. And there's very often giveaways as well. So it's really, really fun. And this has been going on since the 17th of March, 2020. So a long time. And all of the videos are saved in our archive. On Instagram, it's in Reels. And on Facebook, it's in videos or, you know, media videos, or there's a handy list on the feature post that people can go and watch the every single video. So we always say, if people run out of stuff to watch on Netflix and HBO and Disney and goodness knows whatever else, Amazon streaming service and whatnot, and regular TV. They can go to First Chapter Fun and find hours and hours and hours of recordings.
Oh, I just want to say thank you. Introduced to so many great books that, you know, even as a librarian, right, my job is to keep up with everything that's being published and read everything ahead of it being published and all of that. But you have done a really great job of introducing me, as well as like 9 bazillion other people, about new books, new writers, new to us. And it's been really fun. There's a bio of the person beforehand. We're asking questions, you know, in the chat to the writer, which has been really fun. So thank you for doing that. It was a lifeline during the pandemic because you did it every single day.
Every day for about 50 days.
So long as I make, I think did it start at 1 way back when?
11:30.
11:30. I was like, I knew there was and I was like, if I can make it to 11:30, I'm okay. So now my weeks are benchmarked. Did I make it to 12:30 on Tuesday? So, you know, but it's been a wonderful gift.
Oh, you know what, the authors, I have to say that we never read without the permission of the publishers and the authors, of course. So they're also people that need to be thanked, because without them saying yes to Hank and myself, who are not audiobook narrators, so you know, they'd all sound very English in mine. So they're also the ones who need to be thanked, because they allow us to read from their work, and it is tons of fun.
Yeah, wonderfully fun. Okay, so final 5 questions for you. Okay. So as a comfort, Madison and Vienna find themselves watching Almost Famous and Bohemian Rhapsody. What movie would you watch for comfort?
The Family Man with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, good choice.
And Tia Leone. Every Christmas I watch it when I'm wrapping gifts, and I love it. And I can probably
recite it.
Yeah, some of it, not all of it, but not all of it. Oh, that would be weird. But some of the scenes, yes.
Yeah, wonderful story.
Yeah, love it.
For Vienna, drumming and playing music is a release for her. What's your release?
Working out, I would say, probably. Although I have started drumming, weirdly.
Have you really? That's awesome.
Yeah. I got so inspired by researching drummers, and female drummers in particular, that I thought I want to learn how to play. I just want to learn how to play. So I have an electronic kit, and I have a subscription to Drumeo, which is the online drumming school, and I suck, but it's fun.
No. I'm sure there's nothing.
Oh, no. Trust me. I'm terrible. Because it's hard. It's really hard.
I didn't realize how hard it was. Now, Lenny Kravitz has a female drummer who's phenomenal. But when I watched the movie Whiplash, I had no idea it was as challenging. Not to say that I didn't appreciate it. Of course I did. But I had no idea what the wear and tear on your hands kind of reminds me of like rowing, right? Like I have that on mine. But my goodness.
I'm not that level, so don't worry. My hands are fine.
Not yet. Not yet. I mean, we're going to be going to like sold out shows. And people are going to be chanting your name.
Not likely, but it's fun. It's just fun. I haven't played in a while because things have been so busy. But Drumeo, it's drumeo.com. It's incredible. It takes you really from, this is how you hold the sticks.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to do that.
But they teach you right from, this is how you set up your kit. These are the names of the different parts. So very, 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 real beginner. First time
everybody has to start somewhere. I mean,
at the beginning, typically.
Yeah, it's a very good place to start. That should be a song, right? Speaking of, okay, what band would you go see over and over and over and over again?
Oh gosh, over and over again? I don't know if there is one. I saw the Beaches in Toronto. I really, really like. They're a Torontonian band. Yeah. They were really, really cool. Definitely go and see them again. Okay. I saw Howard. Do you remember Howard Jones from the 80s? I saw him twice last year. Wow. Once at a concert with Culture Club, and they were my favorite band in the early 80s. But then I went back to see him in the town where I live, and it was a stripped down version of the songs, just with, I think there were 3 of them on stage.
Ooh.
The bassist was Nick Clegg from Kajagoogoo, so that's really showing my age. Yeah.
No, we're roughly the same. So.
And then there was another gentleman. It was the 3 of them, and it was a small venue. Mm-hmm. So Howard Jones was talking about the songs and the history, and it was a very intimate, kind of almost in conversation and then songs.
Yeah.
It was really I'd go and see him again in a heartbeat, and I would love to see Pink.
Me
and I know
too.
she's in Toronto, so I might.
Oh, I think you have to. She makes several appearances in the book. She should know.
Yes,
that and
yes,
get you
she's
tickets.
Awesome. She's just amazing.
She's badass and a strong female who knows who she is and like stands up. Yeah,
I always so talented. I think she's
so talented.
She's incredible.
Yes. Yeah, she's one of my all-time favorites. I haven't seen her yet, so maybe one day. Mm-hmm. Team Vienna, Team Madison.
I can't answer that. I'm not giving away any spoilers.
Okay. What is on your phone wallpaper?
My phone wallpaper is a picture of me and my husband.
Aw.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am so thankful that I've been joined in conversation with you. You being Hannah Mary McKinnon, writer of Only One Survives and 6 other thrillers, in addition to rom-coms. Binge read. It's like the greatest thing. I know, I kind of feel bad. It takes you so many months to write a book, and it just takes us hours to read.
That's okay.
Kind of like all the wrapping we do in the holidays, or for somebody's birthday. And
then that's totally fine. There's another one coming next year, so
Are you allowed to talk?
Sure, yeah. So it's tentatively called A Killer Motive. Mm-hmm. And it's about a podcaster whose teenage brother went missing from a beach party 6 years prior that she took him to. And because he was grounded, and she got him to bust up the house, and then he went missing, just disappeared. And 6 years later, while she's on the radio show promoting her true crime podcast, a would-be abductor makes contact saying that he has information about her brother, and instead of working on a cold case, maybe she should be working on a red hot one. So that is A Killer Motive. A little so that will be coming to a bookshop or a library near you in autumn of 2025. I don't know exactly when yet, but sometime next year.
Before we know it. So
probably.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you to all of you who are watching and listening this evening. A huge thank you to our tech team, Brooke, for making sure everything looked good, sounded good. Thank you to Maxbacks Books for making sure they have copies of Hannah's books just waiting for you. And then finally, a huge thank you to you, Hannah, for taking time out of your schedule to visit with us this evening.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone. And to you. Thank you, Jen, very much. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.